Despite the hundreds of new shows released every season, everyone has that one anime they keep coming back to watch over and over again. It doesn't matter how many people get summoned into another world, however hard Truck-kun is trying. But even when you can barely keep up with what's hot and new, or however stressful your life is, nothing will ever beat your favorite show. And it just so happens that my favorite show just got a new animation project announced. Now, there are already 2 seasons of it, but the last one was released way back in 2009. And despite that, this show is the one that will start closest to my heart. And today, I will try to convince you, well, you should be excited for Spice and Wolf. So, a story which came out when I was 6, with an anime which is nearly 15 years old at this point. What the hell is so good about this show? And to answer that, I will need to introduce the main characters. First up, Lawrence, a traveling merchant who's become slightly lonely after many years on the road. He has a life goal of one day earning enough money to open up his own shop. On his journey, he meets Hollow, a harvesting god who hails from the far north. Due to mutual interest, they form a contract in which Lawrence has to accompany her back to the north. And this isn't some grand story involving hundreds of characters, it's just Lawrence and Hollow's travels in an historically accurate medieval drama. And that's what makes this show so special, the interactions between the two. Both are clearly sharp people, but in 2 very different areas. The quick-witted century-old deity has equally as much to learn as the calculated merchant, and it's this dynamic of both their flaws and strength contrasting each other which makes these characters so unique and believable. There is a lot of dialogue in Spice and Wolf, like a lot, but due to the contrast between the 2 characters, the everyday dialogue feels real, it feels authentic, while still making it plot relevant. This slow-paced, dialogue-heavy style to me is very refreshing, especially nowadays when you see something major or life-changing happen in every single episode in new shows. I'm amazed at how this show can avoid this while still moving the plot forward, while keeping you interested and full of emotions. Plot-wise, the show is driven by economics. Most major plot points revolve around trades, traders, price changes, and other factors that directly influence Lawrence's travels as a merchant. This means that the plot isn't necessarily driven by the main characters themselves, as factors they can't control will influence their business, their relationships, and economic situation. I'm personally quite a big fan of this, as this makes the show a lot more personal to me. I can focus fully on the main characters, experiencing their emotions in a changing environment, and can be equally as surprised in situations as they are, and that's both good and bad. I feel a connection to the story, as I learn at the same pace as our main duo does, and I really like to be able to put myself in their situations with the same information and emotions that they have. It's fun, unique, and it keeps me interested and involved in the plot. For me, this is one of the biggest selling points of the show. The characters doesn't know important things that you don't, meaning every major plot point or emotion is something you yourself can take part of. It's almost as if you're traveling along with them, just listening to the everyday chatter. I know a lot of people are into the action-heavy aspect of anime, where, as mentioned before, very changing moments are made in every episode, with epic fights with extreme scale, and while I can appreciate that, this is a whole other experience. Even if you are one to enjoy anime for its fight and scale, I too think others can appreciate such a genuine story as this one. But then again, the big goal of reaching the far north is solely coming from Hollow. She is, I dare say, the best written female character in anime, at least in my opinion. I'm not saying her design is flawless, but that's kinda the point. Hollow as a character is driven by her age. With that, I don't mean she's growing old and don't have long to live, but the other way around. She has too many more years to live. She has reached a point where loneliness due to all living creatures around her dying has become her greatest nightmare. Everyone she makes contact with, gets to know, travels with, and befriends, they all die. A few years for Hollow is nothing, but for a mere human, that's a great sacrifice. It's a gap between her and other beings that eventually leaves her lonely again. This is not to say that she's some helpless girl that goes around crying, nor is it a flaw in her character. It feels natural for someone who's gone through centuries of always losing everyone around her to get emotional about it and scared. She has a hard time making long-term connections due to this. And at first, it can come off as a bit strange, because since the beginning of the story, she's portrayed and acting very independent. She can take care of herself, protect herself, is very knowledgeable and intelligent. But the more you get to know about Hollow, the more you see these very human scars. And what a character that creates! A strong, godly being with such human flaws. She isn't a helpless girl, but she's not an unstoppable force either. It's a wonderful balance with a story that is not scared of presenting her weaknesses while not making fun of it. A story that uses her weaknesses not to excuse her actions, but to put a meaning behind them. Her actions and words take a whole new meaning when you put it into that perspective. She could easily go by herself, but that is torture to a being who lives that long. And while she doesn't want to be alone, she's equally scared of making long-term connections due to it eventually leaving her. And how the story deals with this is some of the most impressive storytelling I've seen ever. Now, its setting is also something I want to bring up, because even if medieval settings are far from rare in anime, this style of low fantasy with little to no magic is. The show not only avoids that, but goes as far as to be slightly historically accurate to its time. This includes everything from the church's power and influence, to the economics of trade, to accurate depictions of belief depending on geographical location, the kingdom of great power and the same kingdom's power reflecting on the value of their coin. Far north you hear stories about demigods, shamans and spirits, while south the church's influence hail the strongest. Food changes depending on how far they traveled, and what they sell and buy depends on the season. This world feels real and alive. It doesn't feel like a fantasy, it feels like this is how our world could have looked like many centuries ago. This helps a lot with immersing the reader into the story. Combined with the very personal interactions between our main characters, this only helps to make this world a believable place. And I just find that awesome. It's so cool to read a story that takes you to such a believable place. And although this might be a personal opinion that I'm spitting out now, I don't believe it is just that. Talking to others who finish the same story, a lot of us feel this way, and I find that amazing. So, here we are, a new animation project. There is absolutely zero information outside of that. All we know is that there is a new project in works. Will it be a remake, a season 3, or something totally different? We have zero clue. And in all honesty, however much I want a season 3 for the sake of getting more story, I really hope it's a remake. This story, however slow paced and dialogue heavy, is one of the best stories I've ever heard. And I want others to experience the thrill of their journey. And a remake would be a better option for that. Introducing their story again with new animations, but hopefully keeping the story similar, will be the best course of actions for the future of Spice & Wolf. When an older show like this, already before its new release, is rated so well and loved by the community, I want nothing for its success to be shared with the world. And with this I hope that you too can be excited for the future release of Spice & Wolf. Hi, I'm Kugio, and thank you so much for watching today's video. I've tried to work a bit on my editing skills, but it takes a while since I'm learning from scratch. I've also tried to talk a bit more clearly, as that was a big thing I wasn't happy about in previous videos. Hopefully you're enjoying the changes, and if you want to stick around for future content, it would make my day if you would subscribe. Until next time, have a good one y'all.